Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear children. Very happy to have you with us today. It's really an honor to open this first session of the open-ended Intergovernmental Working Group that is mandated to explore the possibility of elaborating and submitting to the Human Rights Council a draft optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child concerning the right to education. Let me begin by sincerely thanking the core group, and by that I mean the Dominican Republic, Luxembourg, and Sierra Leone, along with supporting states. Many thanks for the leadership in initiating this important process. A special word of thanks goes to the children joining us. Your presence is not symbolic, it is essential for our deliberations. You remind us that this discussion is not about abstract legal norms, it is about you and your right to learn, to grow, and to participate fully in shaping the present and the future. So I hope you will be strong, you will be forceful, and you will remind us what more we need to do. The working group represents a significant step forward in the progressive development of international human rights law. Its mandating resolution recognizes that education has long been established as a human right. However, the current international legal framework does not fully reflect the complexity of today's educational challenges, nor does it offer sufficient accountability for states' commitments. Member states, through the adoption of Resolution A/HRC/565, acknowledge an undeniable truth. Millions of children continue to be denied their right to education, not because they lack the will or the capacity to learn, but because they cannot afford it. This is especially true for pre-primary and secondary education. According to a UNESCO report from 2024, more than 251 million children and youth are out of school. Globally, only 4 in 10 children aged 3 to 4 participate in early childhood education. Roughly 70% of children only complete lower secondary school, but that figure drops even more sharply among poorer and rural communities. We all know about the impact on women and girls. Nearly 4 in 10 adolescent girls and young women never complete upper secondary education, and the result is deepening exclusion, more inequality, and shrinking opportunity. The resolution acknowledges that education is not only a right in itself, but it is also an enabling right. It protects against exploitation, against child labor, against early marriage, and recruitment by armed groups. It lays the foundation for equality, for civic participation, and for sustainable development. This working group has been tasked with an existential and essential question: whether and how an additional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child could strengthen legal protection for the right to education, and thereby promote greater accountability in its realization. The program for this first session is ambitious and it is forward-looking, and I commend the organizers for including a session dedicated to the voices of children representing all 5 regions. I understand, unfortunately, our child participant from Africa could not be with us today, from Liberia, but I hope we will find a way to connect with him. But this reflects a very serious commitment to meaningful child participation, as required indeed by the Convention itself. Your Excellencies, as we undertake these discussions, it is important to reflect on the wider context in which this meeting takes place. Our world today is experiencing profound upheaval. Armed conflicts are multiplying, climate disasters intensifying, public trust in institutions is eroding, even as economic inequality continues to deepen. And against this all, the rule of law is under pressure in many parts of the world. Children, especially girls, living, many of them in poverty, along with refugees, Children with disabilities and indigenous children are among the most affected by these crises. Schools are being closed, damaged, physically militarized in conflict zones. And I want to pay special attention to the children living in conflict. I must underscore that just last year, and the numbers this year already are quite horrendous, but just last year, over 52 million children in conflict-affected schools in conflict-affected countries were out of school, 52 million, including, for example, an estimated 2.6 million children in Sudan alone. So young Sudanese boys and girls to that degree. I must recall Gaza as well. According to UN satellite imagery, Israel has partially or completely destroyed 97% of Gaza's schools. This is up to last month. With 432 school buildings, 76% of school buildings directly hit since October 2023. In reality, those children are set to miss the start of school for the third consecutive year. In Ukraine, we, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, have documented at least 1,614 attacks which have destroyed or damaged educational facilities since the full-scale invasion. Not to mention, of course, the range of disruptions that these children are going through, whether it is famine to starvation, of course, the need for psychosocial support that really ensures that this disruption, including the lack of access to education, is threatening their futures, but also fundamentally undermining prospects for peace and reconciliation, with very long-term consequences for families and entire communities. And yet, amid these challenges, we always look for a little bit the silver lining, the bright light. Children are also leading. Children are standing up for gender equality, for climate justice, for the right to education. They are not passive recipients of protection. They are agents of change. Distinguished delegates, our office continues to respond to these challenges by supporting the development of norms and standards, by engaging with states, with national human rights institutions and civil society, advocating for the right to education as a public good. We emphasize that this right must evolve in response to these evolving and changing societies and these very large global crises. We are aligned with the call made by the International Commission on the Futures of Education, established by UNESCO, that the right to education must adapt to varied contexts and changing societies, and further, that the understanding of this right must be broadened. Ambition alone is not enough. What we need is commitment, we need resources, and we need accountability. And I wish to underline 3 points that I hope we can keep in mind moving forward in this session. First, states must fulfill their legal obligation to allocate the maximum of their available resources to education. This means protecting and expanding domestic education funding as a first charge on national budgets. This is not optional. It is a binding obligation under international law, and yet many states remain constrained, on the one hand, by servicing debt burdens and limited fiscal space. In other parts of the world, of course, rising spending on security and defense is being prioritized. Second, any new instrument on extending the right to education must be built around the lived experiences of children, especially those most affected by systemic exclusion. Their perspectives must be heard, and those insights must shape the outcome of this process. And third, we must preserve the integrity and the coherence of the international human rights framework. Any new instrument must complement existing standards. We must learn from past experiences in developing optional protocols and ensure that this process remains transparent, inclusive, and legally sound, consolidating the foundations that we have worked so hard to achieve. Your Excellencies, over the next 3 days, you will engage with expert speakers, you will deliberate on a range of important issues, and you will consider different pathways towards a possible protocol. I encourage you to bring openness, clarity, and most of all, resolve to these discussions. Our office stands ready to support the work. We look forward to tangible outcomes from this session and to your guidance on the way forward. In thanking you for your engagement, I really wish you all a very productive and successful session. Thank you, Dimitri.